The views expressed in this program do not necessarily reflect those of this station.
Welcome to Insights into Northeast Michigan, a WBKB News public affairs program. Insights deals with the issues affecting those in the community, as well as Northeast Michigan and the state. And now, Insights into Northeast Michigan.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Insights into Northeast Michigan. I'm Lindsay DeLucia. Today, we are here at the Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary, and we are going to be talking about a lot of issues that we're going to be seeing come the end of the month when the film festival comes to town. So right now, I'm here with Stephanie Gondula, the film festival coordinator. Thanks so much for joining me, Stephanie.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Of course. So the film festival is coming up. Tell me a little bit about what it is and what issues we're going to see there.
Yes, so it's coming up January 27th through the 31st. 5 days of films and social events and educational activities. There'll be filmmaker panels, there'll be panel discussions about fisheries, about plastic pollution, all sorts of different activities. And what's really cool about Film Festival is you can choose to take part in, just one social event, one evening or one screening of films for a morning, or you can do the whole thing, 5 full days, do the Thunder Pass. So really lots of opportunities for anyone who's interested in films about our oceans and Great Lakes. And you asked about the issues that we're going to be covering. And I mean, the topics, we've got over 40 films. And so the topics really, there's so many. They really range. Some of the films are peaceful films just about surfing with really cool music. Some of the films are more for kids and about wildlife, marine mammals. And then a lot of the films address important issues such as plastics pollution, climate change, and our suffering marine ecosystems, particularly shark fin soup is another issue that we'll be addressing in a number of the films.
Okay, and you did touch on climate change. It seems to be a hot topic these days. Will there be an opportunity to learn more about that here?
Absolutely, absolutely. Climate change is indeed a hot topic these days, no pun intended. And one of the focuses of our Science on a Sphere theater is going to be climate change. We have a 6-foot diameter carbon fiber globe that you can see what NOAA scientists call data sets. And these are a lot of them are real-time data sets that we're able to project on this sphere that really give the audience a good feel and a good understanding of scientific processes happening around the globe, to our globe, to our planet. And one of the most popular and I think important data sets that we have is the one on climate change. And so definitely opportunities to learn about climate change. It's not as simple as one might think. When I first started studying climate change, I thought, well, yeah, it's just the release of burning fossil fuels releases carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, and then that leads to trapping heat. Simple. But there's so many other factors that affect climate change that it's not that simple, and it's a great opportunity at Film Festival to learn more.
Now, is it the same as global warming, or how does that work?
That's a great question. So climate change actually encompasses global warming.
Okay.
So global warming is a part of climate change.
Gotcha.
There has been a trend, the globe has been warming over the past 50 plus years, but climate change also includes such changes as sea level rise, as melting ice caps, and that of course leads to changes in growth cycles for plants. So climate change encompasses global warming.
Okay, gotcha. And so we have been having some great weather recently, but this past week and even today we've been seeing, that cold, snowy weather. Some people would say that would refute climate change, no?
That's a great question. People will say that, well, gosh, it's, we just got 10 feet of snow. There's no climate change. There's no global warming. But some folks say weather is what you get, climate is what you expect. And so weather is more local and sometimes regional effects, like, hey, you want to bring your umbrella today because it's raining, so that's weather. Climate change is more of a, overall, general, long-term trends. That's what climate is.
Gotcha. And how does this affect us in the Great Lakes?
That's another great question. So the Great Lakes, you might think here we are in idyllic Alpena. It's beautiful. We don't see a lot of pollution. And the changes that are happening around our planet absolutely have an effect on us in the Great Lakes. The changes in temperature are going to affect, the warming temperatures are definitely going to affect farmers and ranchers here in the Great Lakes. And pollution, which is another issue, not necessarily related to climate change, but I mean, further removed, it definitely is related to changes on our planet. We are definitely affected by pollution here in the Great Lakes with microplastics in our waters.
Which we will be talking about more in a few minutes. But I know that you're an archaeologist. Now, does climate change have an effect on archaeological sites?
It really actually does. With rising sea levels, there's a number of coastal, very, very important coastal archaeological sites that are at risk. They're going to be underwater very soon. So a lot of archaeologists are having to ramp up their investigations and maybe even excavate artifacts that they once could leave there. There's also a growing popularity for what they call ice melt archaeology. And so a lot of cultural artifacts that might be thousands and thousands of years old are now melting out of the ice and are at risk. They're being exposed, and so we can learn from them, but they definitely need to be studied and handled before they've been preserved in the ice, and so they're going to be exposed and deteriorate very rapidly.
Yeah, how do scientists study this, really?
So scientists have a number of methods to study the changes in our climate. And one of them, of course, is with NOAA buoys. NOAA has a lot of marine buoys out there floating around the lakes, as we know, but also all of the world's oceans. Ships, radars, weather balloons, and satellites, of course. But there's a lot of folks that might say, well, gosh, those are all recording instruments and scientific devices that are very recent, maybe a couple hundred years old at the most. How can we track such long-term changes? How do we know what the climate was like 10,000 years ago? And one of the most important and main ways scientists can study that is by taking ice cores at the poles and on glaciers. So those ice cores go back, many thousands of years, and they're able to tell what the climate was like.
Yeah, very interesting. And what can we as individuals do about this?
Great question. So it does seem like a huge problem. What can little old me do about these big issues? And since we do know now, there's really no debate about it any longer, that the burning of fossil fuels is what's contributing to more CO2, more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, we can do our part to use less. Bike to work. Use paper bags rather than plastic bags because it requires the burning of fossil fuels to make plastic bags. We can just do our part to use less and to be more conscious of reducing and reusing and recycling.
Great. And of course, there will be a lot of time and chances to learn about this at the film festival come the end of the month. So different films that are going to be on climate change.
Absolutely. We have the Sphere is going to have the focus of the climate change films. But there are, like I said, over 40 films that will address a lot of these different issues. And that's why we're so excited to be bringing the film festival to the community. These are films that you're not going to be able to catch anywhere else, really. There's a handful that you might be able to, and that'll be out on DVD later. But most of these films are cutting-edge science and brand new films that are addressing these issues that you're not going to see anywhere else. So we're really excited to bring it to the community.
Absolutely, and we're excited to be there. We definitely will be. And thanks so much for being here, Stephanie.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Of course. And coming up next, we're going to be speaking about a lot more of the issues that Stephanie told us about. So stay tuned for that. You're not going to want to miss it. Welcome back to Insights into Northeast Michigan, everyone. I'm Lindsay DeLucia, and today we are at the Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary talking about some issues we're going to be seeing at the film festival come the end of this month. Right now I'm here with Travis Wall. Travis, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for interviewing me.
Of course. So what we want to know from you is more about the shark issue. A lot of people don't think about it living up here in the Great Lakes, but tell me what we're going to be seeing at the film festival. Now, what is Shark Night?
So Shark Night is going to be held over at Thunder Bay Theater. And that's on Thursday, January 28th at 6 p.m. And we're going to be showing multiple shark-related films about how endangered of a species they are, what kind of, how important they are to the ecosystems, and basically what's going on with their life cycles right now and how humanity is kind of affecting that.
Yeah, so tell me a little more about that. What is the danger surrounding sharks? They are endangered.
Right, so they're very quickly becoming endangered because of overfishing, using these fisheries in the oceans for what's known as the shark fin soup kind of trade. And it's pretty sad, actually, because as of right now, every single year there's over 100 million sharks being pulled from the oceans, which is an astronomical number. That's even
Mhm.
hard to picture in your own head. So, kind of how to bring that closer in relation is that that's over 11,000 sharks per hour every single day.
Wow.
So, that's just an astronomical size, like number of sharks to be pulling out of the ocean, and that's
Mhm.
for any animal really. And so, they're quickly becoming endangered because this is part of an illegal fishing trade. Now there are legal areas where you can fish for sharks,
Mhm.
but humanity as a whole is going above and beyond that quite astronomically.
Yeah. Apparently so, and a lot of people have these images in their mind of sharks, and it's not good ones. They
Right.
don't see them in a very good way or a very beneficial way to the
Mhm.
environment. So why are sharks so important?
So sharks are important because they're obviously the apex predator, so they're at the top of the food chain of the ecosystem that they live
Mhm.
in, and they actually end up being sort of a cleanup crew to the area where they live in. So let's say you have a shark that lives around a reef,
Mhm.
and you have, let's say, a couple fish are dying here and there in the reef. Well, they go in and clean up those dying fish so that they're not rotting on the bottom
Mhm.
or creating more problems for the surrounding area. So that's the main source of food for sharks is injured fish, and that's the kind of prey that they go after. And the thing about sharks is that there's so many different species. There's hundreds of species of sharks, and they all form their own niche wherever they live. And so you have ones that live on the bottom of the ocean, you have ones that live in the middle of the ocean, ones that live near reefs, and they all fill that role, that similar role, as they're there to keep like the area healthy. So they remove any sort of decaying, prey items
Right.
from the area, and they'll keep the area that they live in relatively healthy.
Yeah, definitely not something people think of when they think of
Exactly.
sharks. What is the general misunderstanding of sharks, or why are they so misunderstood?
So it kind of goes back to the whole mass media aspect that started, back in the movie era, back in the 70s.
Of course.
And of course, everybody knows the movie I'm talking about. But so that kind of kicked off to the point where, well, sharks are just a big mouthful of teeth, and they should be terrifying. Well, that's not really the case. And you hear everything about how shark attacks occur, in the Carolinas and Florida and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But what people don't really understand is that we're in their territory at that point.
Exactly.
They're not coming out to us. Obviously, they can't, but they're not coming after us. We're going into where they live, and sharks are actually naturally curious. And so those initial shark bites that actually happen are a curiosity bite. What are you, essentially?
Yeah.
So why are you here? What are you doing here, kind of thing. And that's kind of the whole misunderstanding of sharks, is that they're living in their home. We're going into their home, and they're fighting for the same thing that we are. We want to live. They want to live. So it's all kind of full circle about they're there,
Yeah.
being exactly what they should be.
Of course. Do you think that maybe we'll see, with the increased awareness of this, a difference in people going out there in the oceans, or do you think that it's just kind of a culture that's not really going to change?
Right. Well, I think I think it has a possibility of changing. We're definitely in the sway of that right now,
Yeah.
because it's been so many years since all those that huge mass media boom
Yeah.
of being afraid of sharks. That's all kind of taking a turn now, and we're seeing sharks for what they really are now. So I truly believe that there will be some sort of turn, that we're kind of in there. We're in their world essentially when we're in the oceans with them, and yeah. So I'm hopeful.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, tell me what kinds of films we will be seeing at Shark Night and what people will be learning.
Yeah, so we'll be seeing 3 films. They span about an hour and a half total, and they go over essentially the culture of sharks, as well as the ecosystems that the sharks live in. So one of the films kind of prioritizes the effect of ecotourism that sharks bring. So obviously, going out and swimming with sharks is something that a lot of people want to do and are willing to do, and that brings in a lot of money for people that give those kind of scuba diving tours and cage diving tours. And one of the films goes over one man and his journey between how that ecotourism actually brought him back from a pretty life-changing event.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then there's another film that goes over the Gulf of the Farallones, which is another National Marine Sanctuary, and it gives a completely overview of how the Gulf of the Farallones is a protected area for sharks and a wide range of other sea animals. And then the final film is about it's called Shark Girl, and it follows a young woman who is from Australia, and how sharks and the Great Barrier Reef have kind of changed her life and what she has been seeing around her. Essentially, it's been her growing up with sharks, and she had no idea about the whole mass media kind of thing, and she formed her own opinion, and then she's seeing what everybody else's opinion is on what she loves, and it goes through her story on that. So it's really interesting.
All right. Well, thanks. Thank you so much for joining us, Travis. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Of course. And coming up next, we'll be talking with Megan Goss about one more issue that's very pressing on the Great Lakes that we'll be learning more about at the film festival. So stay tuned. Welcome back to Insights into Northeast Michigan, everyone. I'm Lindsay DeLucia, and we are here at the Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary talking about some pressing issues on the Great Lakes that are going to be highlighted at the International Film Festival in just a few weeks. I'm here with Megan Goss. Megan, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So there are a lot of films that highlight the marine debris and plastic pollution issue. So tell me a little bit, what is marine debris to begin with?
So when plastic gets into our water, it doesn't biodegrade like a lot of other materials. Instead, it photodegrades. So with the UV radiation, the plastic breaks down into these really, really small pieces known as microplastics.
Okay.
They can be smaller than a single strand of hair. So it's not necessarily something you see in the water, but it's there. And what makes it really dangerous is the fact that these small pieces of plastic absorb pollutants at really high rate, like DDT and things like that. And then through the food chain, as they're consumed by phytoplankton and then other fish, if you also eat fish from Great Lakes or oceans, then you could also be ingesting plastic.
Yeah, so it's a huge problem because it really affects the entire food chain, not only within the water, but to us as well.
Yes, it definitely does. And it's something that, it's any kind of plastic. If you think about how much plastic is in our lives, it's really, there's a huge, horrible potential for having, and there is, a lot of plastic that's floating in our oceans and Great Lakes.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how much do they think is floating in the waters?
Well, they are still researching estimates for our Great Lakes, but in our oceans, current estimates are about 270,000 tons of plastic.
Wow.
So that's the equivalent if you took one 2-liter bottle and stacked one on top of the other. You could go to the moon and back twice.
Wow.
So
That's definitely a lot of plastic.
it's definitely a lot of plastic. And if
Yeah.
you think about how much we consume, there's definitely some correlation there between our consumption and the rising levels of plastics in our water.
Of course. And what are some things, we're going to talk about the films, but what are some things right now that are exposing this problem?
Well, locally, we have a lot of student groups that are working with local community partners through the Northeast Michigan Great Lakes Stewardship Initiative to highlight this issue. So, for instance, at Alpena High School, students are trawling out in Thunder Bay and Lake Huron as part of their chemistry class to try to estimate how much plastic they're finding in these water sources. And they're working closely with researchers from SUNY Fredonia University and collaborating the data that they collect, so it's really a citizen science effort. But another school project at All Saints, for instance, the students raised awareness about plastic pollution, and they conducted an experiment in their cafeteria. So for a week, they recorded how much single-use plastics all the students were using in the classroom. And then after a week, they presented the effects of plastic pollution to the entire student body. And then the following week, they, again, tracked how much single-use plastics the students were using, and they saw a drop in about 600 single-use plastics in the span of a week. So really trying to raise awareness about this issue is a key component of a lot of these student groups. And also at the junior high, students have been doing beach cleanups for many years now, and since I think about 2012. And for instance, with cigarette butts, a really big problem for marine debris and plastic pollution, they've picked up close to 10,000 cigarette butts on our local beaches in Alpena. So lots of really great community and school efforts to raise awareness and help mitigate this issue.
Definitely. And how do certain films expose this problem as well?
Well, as part of the Thunder Bay International Film Festival, we have a lot of great films, even a film series that is dedicated to plastic pollution and marine debris. So, for instance, with The Big Pick, one of our short films, it highlights a community effort where people are getting together to help clean up the garbage that they're finding along this cove. And it's amazing how much plastic that they were able to pick up in the span of 3 hours.
Yeah.
But working collectively, you can make a huge impact in your community. And then other films connected science with art. So, for instance, Gyre, creating art from a plastic ocean. These scientists and artists worked together in the Arctic to collect marine debris, and then they made a art piece to help expose the problems of marine debris and plastic. So it's really this collaboration and making the impact of our waste more powerful through art.
Very interesting. And a lot of people don't even realize, but there's so many things you can do in your everyday life to prevent this from happening too. Can you tell me a little about that?
Yeah, so there's lots of ways that you can reduce your plastic use. If you think about every time you go out to a restaurant, do you really need a straw in your water? Saying no to a straw is a really simple way to help reduce your plastic use. Also, reusable bags. Instead of opting for a plastic or paper bag, saying I would rather use my reusable bag every single time I go to the grocery store is a great way to help reduce your impact in a way that doesn't take a lot of time out of your life.
Definitely. And there are even some products that people use that the little microplastics are in there, like microbeads, right? Okay.
Yes, there are. So recently, these products were banned with the Microbeads Free Act, but it will take a while for it to actually go into effect. So in a lot of our personal care products like facial soap, toothpaste, even body soaps, have microbeads, which are little tiny pieces of plastic that are supposed to be added exfoliators.
Right.
But when they get flushed down the drain, they end up a lot of times in our Great Lakes and oceans because water processing plants can't process out these small pieces of plastic. So it's definitely something that if you can stop using those products now, since it will be a couple of years until that law goes into effect, it's a way to be proactive and help improve your Great Lakes.
Yeah, definitely. And are any of these, along with some of the local efforts that you talked about, similar to what we're going to be seeing in the feature films that you were talking about as well?
Yes, definitely. So, for instance, connecting science and art. With the Earth Day Bag Project, we had students that learned about plastic pollution and the science behind it and how these plastics photodegrade and don't biodegrade. But then to have an art component with it, the students decorated paper grocery bags from Neiman's Family Market with information about plastic pollution, but also conservation and the 3 R's, reduce, reuse, recycle. And all of these bags were then distributed to customers on Earth Day. So it's trying to connect in ways like that, art and science all together and making those community connections.
Awesome. Very cool. And so the date for the film festival again is?
Yes, the film festival is from the January 27th through the 31st, but the plastic series will be on January 31st from 3 to 5 p.m. And there will also be a panel of teachers and students and other activists related to plastic pollution locally that will be here to answer questions about what's being locally done to raise awareness and mitigate this issue.
All right, great. Well, thank you so much, Megan, for joining us. We appreciate the time and the information.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, and you can learn more definitely by coming to the film festival. There's so much to learn, and you can contact the Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary to learn more about that and get your tickets. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.
Insights into Northeast Michigan is produced by WBKB News. If you have any comments, suggestions, or topics you would like to see on a future show, please email WBKB News. This has been a production of Thunder Bay Broadcasting Corporation. All rights reserved.